So in the last video we learned how to create a post request. In this video we will learn how to create a put request and a delete request. The put request is basically used to update some information on the backend which already exists. For instance, a user wants to update its first name, or in our scenario we will be updating the job of a user that already exists. And to tell the server that which user we are updating, we have to pass the user ID or some form of ID that uniquely identifies that information, and then we update one of the fields from the information. In our scenario it will be just a user ID that we will pass. In our URL we will put /2 in after the user's URL, and here we will update the job to software engineer and update the HTTP method to put. Now if we run this request, you can see it's software engineer. We can also update it to hardware engineer. So put request is very similar to post request. The only difference is the HTTP method, and that we have to tell the server that what information we are gonna update for which user or which particular entity. The next, because it's a very short example, so I'm gonna cover the delete method here as well. So what delete does is it basically deletes the information that exists in the database. So in our scenario we will delete this same user, and as we are deleting it, we don't need to send the body. We can delete the body, and also we can delete attaching the body here. And the HTTP method that we will use here is delete. Now as we are deleting the information, we won't get any response back from the server in form of like a response, proper JSON response, but we can check for the status code here. So as I told you in initial videos, that every response gives us a status code. Like if something goes fine, it returns 200. If something is not found, it returns 404. So in our case we will see that the request response API, what does the delete return here? So if we see delete returns a response of 204. So if we delete it, we will see that the response code or the status code of that request is 204. And how we read that status code? We get this response object when our request gets completed. So in iOS or in Swift we convert this response. If we hover over it or we write here response, it is of type URL response, but we have to convert this URL response, I have to convert this URL response into an HTTP URL response. So how we can do that is we can just cast it. And now we can print. If we check the properties available, there is a property called status code. We can print it here. And now if we will run this, let's see what status code do we get here. So you can see we are getting 204. It means that this request is successfully deleting the information on the server. So these are two requests, put and delete. And now we have covered all the four basic requests from get, post, put and delete. And this will cover how you communicate with the API with different methods, and we will move on to this in the next video, learning about further networking like timeout. We can basically set a time for a request. If the request takes more than that time, then we can time out. So we will learn that in the next video. For this video, that was it. Thank you very much.